One of my favorite films in recent years is Greta Gerwig's Lady Bird, and there's a scene in that film that I think perfectly reflects our own lives of faith. So in case you haven't seen it, I'll explain the scene to you. In this scene, Christine, or Lady Bird, is discussing her college essay about her hometown Sacramento with a nun that works at her school. Sister Sarah Joan observes, "You write about Sacramento so affectionately and with such great care." And Lady Bird responds, "Well, I guess I was just describing it." Sister says, "Well, it comes across as love." "Sure, I guess I pay attention," Lady Bird replies, surprised at this conversation. And then Sister Sarah Joan delivers one of the most haunting lines of the entire film when she says, "Don't you think that maybe they are the same thing, love and attention?" In our gospel, we hear from the Lord a profound message of reassurance. "Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father is pleased to give you the kingdom." Now notice the attention present in those words. God knows our fears, He sees our smallness, and He delights in us enough to give us everything. In short, the kingdom flows from the Father's loving attention to us. And our relationship with the Lord, our acts of Christian charity due to that relationship, is the essential response to the Lord's attention and love for each of us. Our spiritual life begins not with striving, but with receiving that fundamental truth, that we are beloved and noticed by our loving Father. Jesus then offers his famous teaching about treasure. "Sell your belongings and give alms, for where your treasure is, there also your heart will be." And here's where Sister Sarah Joan's wisdom becomes deeply practical. Jesus isn't just talking about money, he's talking about attention. What we spend our time with, what occupies our thoughts, what we check obsessively on our phones, those reveal and shape what we love. So, Jesus' message too is then deeply practical. This week, look at your calendar. Notice what you think about as you walk around. Notice what fills your mind as you fall asleep. These are great ways to see what we pay attention to, what we love. Jesus suggests that whatever captures our sustained attention is both revealing and forming what we love. The call from the Lord is not to store up heavenly treasure, but instead it's an invitation to redirect our attention towards the Lord, to invite him into our lives more and more. In our gospel, we hear about these different servants. The first group, with girded loins and burning lamps, they wait vigilantly for the master's return. In some way, these servants aren't just waiting, they're paying attention. Paying attention, being ready, is an act of love towards their master. Similarly, our spiritual attentiveness, our time spent in prayer, our awareness of the God's presence in our lives throughout our day, becomes a way of loving God. Jesus also tells about this unfaithful steward who stops paying attention to his master's return and begins attending to his own desires, eating, drinking, and getting drunk. His attention shifts from service to self-indulgence, revealing where his heart actually is, not in his master, but in worldly things. And that truly is a great temptation. When we stop paying attention to God, when our life is completely void of him, our loves drift towards other things, things that will never fulfill us, no matter how hard we try. So Jesus then concludes with that sobering truth. Much will be required of the person entrusted with much. Those who have encountered Christ's teaching clearly, who have been given the gift of faith, bear a greater responsibility for where they direct their attention and therefore their love. And luckily, for all of us here, we are in this category. So, every now and then, it's important for us to give ourselves a gut check in our lives of faith, to ask those important questions, like, where does my attention and my love lie? How can I invite the Lord into these areas of my life? My friends, Sister Sarah Joan was onto something profound. We love what we pay attention to, and we pay attention to what we love. Sometimes we discover what we truly value only when someone else points it out, where our care and where our attention has been flowing. But of course, this idea doesn't just come from that film Lady Bird alone. The great French mystic and philosopher Simone Weil famously said, "Attention, taken to its highest degree, is the same thing as prayer." God pays attention to each of us because of his great love for us. Every moment of divine attention is an act of love from the Father, from his delight in giving us his kingdom. And we find our happiness in this loving God when we draw closer to him, when we train our attention toward him, and due to that, turn towards our neighbors and others in love of God and love of others. My friends, the spiritual life isn't just about checking a box. It's about the daily discipline of directing our attention and therefore our love towards what truly matters. It's about choosing moment by moment to notice God's presence, to attend to others with care, to stop and to pray, and thus focus on treasures that will never fade. So, we praise God for who you are, and we praise God that we can stake our lives on Jesus Christ, who first gave us that perfect attention and that perfect love, and therefore invites us to respond with our own.